Okay, dear participants, now after very inspiring introductory speeches, I'm not talking by myself. Well, let me open the session, which is aimed at Eastern Partnership, time for a new cooperation strategy. We have here at the panel three distinguished speakers, and fourth, Excellency Georgios. I cannot pronounce your family name. I am not even trying. He represents Georgian, Greece presidency. The first speaker is Darius Vitkauskas, Deputy Director of Eastern Neighborhood Policy Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Lithuania. But before I will pass you the floor, let's just agree about the format of our session. I suggest that each speaker takes about 10 minutes for presentation, and then after all presentation and comments from Greece presidency, will be introduced, then we will have a Q&A session. Okay, so Darius.
Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, colleagues. Lithuania definitely left its legacy in Eastern Partnership. And this morning, at least several times, Vilnius and Vilnius Summit was mentioned. Several references were made, so we are happy to hear that. And in fact, several months ago, Lithuania concluded rotating president to the Council of the European Union, for which Eastern Partnership has been set as one of their key priorities. The third Eastern Partnership Summit in Vilnius late November was at the center of our work. It also attracted enormous international attention, mainly due to the extreme pressure by Russia on Eastern partners willing to integrate closer with the European Union. Economic measures were also taken against Lithuania with the aim to induce opposition in our society to the Eastern Partnership as our presidency priority. After Vilnius Summit, everybody asked our opinion on its results. Do we think the Vilnius Summit was a success or a failure? How does the refusal by the previous Ukrainian leadership to sign the association DCFTA with the EU fits into this assessment? What will now happen with the Eastern Partnership policy as such? Overall, we consider Vilnius Summit was a successful summit, and there are some concrete reasons for us to do so. Firstly, with the Vilnius Summit, Eastern Partnership as such was brought to the strategic EU policy level. A few years ago, only a few like-minded EU member states cared about the Eastern Partnership. Before Vilnius and at the summit itself, Eastern Partnership became a policy of shared responsibility and real joint ownership. The European Union and also the wider international community stood firmly behind our Eastern partners and the right to freely make their foreign policy choice, as well as condemned the political, economic, and other kind of pressure put on them by Russia in order to dissuade them from signature or initialing of association agreements, DCFTAs, with the European Union. As a result, we had a record high attendance of the heads of states and governments at the summit. Secondly, we, the European Union and Eastern partners altogether, made a substantial step forward in fulfilling the European aspirations by some of our Eastern partners. We managed to initial association agreements with the Republic of Moldova and Georgia fully, despite the fact it took extremely huge efforts by the EU institutions to prepare them for that initialing on time. We now look forward to their signature, as well as to the signature of the remaining provisions of the Ukrainian part later this month. Thirdly, we managed to make tangible progress in the domain of visa liberalization or visa facilitation. The Republic of Moldova became the first Eastern partner to successfully conclude its Visa Liberalization Action Plan implementation process, thus destroying one of the myths, like Visa Liberalization Action Plans are only meant to prolong the process. Since the end of April of this year, Moldovan citizens holding biometric passports are traveling to the European Union without visas. The EU-Armenia Visa Facilitation Agreement entered into the force on the 1st of January this year. We also signed the same agreement with Azerbaijan and kicked off, finally, visa facilitation negotiations with Belarus. Fourthly, we managed to substantially strengthen sector cooperation within the Eastern Partnership. Last October in Luxembourg, the Lithuanian presidency, together with the European Commission, organized 2 Eastern Partnership sector ministerial meetings in the areas of justice and home affairs, as well as transport. We are convinced that such cooperation at the ministerial level is essential in order to further boost the necessary reforms and also to jointly make important political decisions. We very much hope that the future EU presidency, including Latvian one, will ensure a proper follow-up of these meetings. Fifthly, multilateral cooperation network was further consolidated. In the margins of the Vilnius Summit, the second Eastern Partnership Business Forum was organized, where the importance of the association agreements, DCFTAs, as an instrument for business community and business-to-business relations was extensively discussed. The fifth Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum was for the first time organized outside the European Union, and namely in Moldova, in Chisinau, gathering civil activists, high politicians, and donors from Eastern partners, the European Union, and third countries. Finally, during our presidency, we launched the Eastern Partnership Youth Forum, a platform where young people from the EU, member states, and partner countries met each other, discussed common problems, and searched jointly for their solutions. Therefore, the decision by the former Ukrainian President Yanukovych not to sign the association agreement in Vilnius did not turn the whole summit into a failure. It was something we did not expect and for sure did not welcome. But as we see from the later developments in Ukraine, the Maidan, it was not welcomed by the Ukrainian people either. Today, we still witness the post-Vilnius developments in Ukraine that are extremely dramatic and even tragic. But this is also a very clear sign for us how strong the European spirit of Ukrainian people is, and how determined those people are when defending their independence and European future. It is also a clear obligation for all of us to continue our Eastern Partnership policy, which has such strong foundation of universal values and such a significance for those willing to change. If everything is so positive, do we really need a new cooperation strategy? And how should it look like? The answer is yes, we do. We need a strategy that would create a very clear vision of Eastern Partnership beyond association, a strategy that would ensure a high degree of differentiation between our partners and would in real terms enhance the more for more approach. If some of our partners say, please give us a light in the end of tunnel, and we will do everything, both possible and impossible, in order to reach that end, let us give it. Discussions on the new strategy does not contradict in any way the existing policy instruments. Obviously, if you want to reach a point beyond association, you should reach the association point first. Therefore, no doubts, our immediate task is to sign the association agreement, the CFTAs, in their entirety with 3 countries, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, as soon as possible, like we expect on the 27th of June. Without signature and implementation of these agreements, we will not be able to unlock their transformative power to modernize our partners, to reform their governments, and to transform in positive way their societies. Effective implementation of the association agreement, the CFTAs, is of crucial importance. During the implementation process, the main responsibility lies with the government of our partners, but at the same time, they should not be left on their own. It is our obligation to assist them and to do so proactively. We have the necessary expertise, we have resources, we have to use them. Nothing can be taken for granted, especially in the current circumstances in the region, where Russia seeks no problem at all to use any measure, even military, to achieve its goal. There are voices also within the European Union saying that we should now make a pause, make a break, we should not sign the agreements for the time being, but try to get Russia on board. And do nothing it would not like anymore. This is not our approach at all. We should, of course, continue our dialogue with Russia. And we always prefer talking. But this dialogue should not turn into the granting Russia the right to veto anything that falls under the bilateral relations between the European Union and partners. If we fail to ensure that our partners enjoy their sovereign right to make respective decisions freely, we will immediately lose any credibility in the eyes of millions of people that look west asking to protect them. We never forced our Eastern partners to get closer with the European Union. We never sent our armies to make them change their mind in case they thought differently. What we offered was our assistance to the ones who wished to reform, to replace the negative Soviet legacy of central planning and everyday violations of human rights with more democracy, less corruption, better business environment, and genuine respect for individual rights. Challenges ahead and priority actions. The time until Riga summit is going to be extremely important. The way we will react to the situation on the ground, the way we will define the future strategy of the Eastern Partnership will to a large extent determine its success. Challenge number 1, association agreement implementation. Implementation will not be effective if our partners do not have strong coordination structures. Setting such ones is an immediate priority, both for the partners and for us. Challenge number 2, countering the Russian propaganda. We are overflooded with incorrect and misleading information on association agreement and the EU integration process in general. Series of myths are being created and spread in order to shatter the public support to stop the reform processes. We have already started to implement some concrete activities in this regard, but it should be further strengthened. Association agreement implementation and the related reforms, transposition of the EU norms and standards to the national legislation of our partners, trade liberalization, visa-free regimes, how can all this be harmful to the ordinary people? We see only benefits here, and also for Russia. Challenge number 3, ensuring the main leitmotif of the Eastern Partnership, which is reforms, is not forgotten. In the current crisis situation, looking into the headlines of the last few months, one could say Eastern Partnership has become something super geopolitical, a kind of battle between the East and the West that should be stopped. In fact, it is still about reforms, and reforms must be continued. Here I can only welcome the organizers of this conference for choosing such a relevant subject, strengthening research, regional and innovation policies, as they are the most efficient means to facilitate reform processes and to reduce their costs. Challenge number 4, enhancing our support to the civic society and the people in general. Within the European Union, we easily agree it is a top priority for our action, but when it comes to concrete steps to be made, it suddenly gets complicated. For example, visa liberalization. We once again welcome the abolishment of visa requirements for the citizens of the Republic of Moldova and look forward to the same achievements by Ukraine and Georgia at the Riga summit. The same offer should be extended to the people of the remaining 3 Eastern partners. Challenge number 5, helping EAP region to strengthen its European identity, based on historical ties with other European countries, rich cultural heritage, and broader concept of belonging to European civilization. To sum up, looking into the results we have achieved so far, we can for sure be proud of ourselves. The small steps we make every day towards each other has a huge positive impact, both on the ground and on the strategic level. This policy has a potential to reunite the European continent, to finally make Europe whole and free. I hope we will succeed and that the future generation in the 6 Eastern Partnership countries, as well as at our homes, will be proud of and grateful for the decisions we make today. Thank you very much.